It is time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Hello everyone and welcome back into another episode of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. As we always are, it's Tanner Barth, Tracy Rink, and we got another exciting show coming your way, Tracy. And believe it or not, we're into the month of July. Yeah. It seems like this thing has just kind of flown by, and now here we are with Cowboy Christmas upon us. And before we know it, the rodeo season's going to be towards the tail end.
Yeah, it's nuts. Cowboy Christmas is, a huge time for us. Great money for the Cowboys to be won. And I was told the other day 140 rodeos in July, 180 in August.
A lot of those are smaller rodeos.
Right, but that's just crazy how busy these guys get in the next 2 months.
Yeah, and it's all going to shake out of who ends up being your Cowboy Christmas winner, then also looking at, how it's going to affect the world title race because a lot of money is going to be handed out. Calgary, as we know, paying $50,000, so a lot of chunk of change to come here in the next couple of weeks. Let's start off this show, Tracy, as we always do with our Pro Rodeo props. And this one's going to go to steer wrestler Tucker Allen. This is a young kid that maybe not a lot of people know about, just 24 years old from Ventura, California. This past weekend, he goes out, ties Dalton Massey for the win in Reno, goes to Pecos, wins Pecos as well, and now finds himself number 4 in the world standings in a quest for his first ever Rango National Finals rodeo.
And that's what guys need, big wins. I mean, career-defining wins to win Reno, to win that much money, and then win, in Pecos later that night, to finish out that rodeo, and probably won, about $28,000, $28,000. And now you're getting ready for the real run. I mean, that's like pre Cowboy Christmas. So Tucker's had talent. He's just never been able to put it all together. And some of it has to do with horses. And
he's not the biggest steer wrestler either.
Right.
He's not a very big guy.
And who you're traveling with. And when you're not a big guy, I mean, Wags proved it. I mean, he's 6 foot, 185, he told us. But if you're a smaller guy, your fundamentals have to be spot on.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't have a lot of room for error because bigger guys, can throw the steer down a lot easier because they're just bigger guys. But kudos to him. I mean, we always look for those guys that you don't expect to get there, and then all of a sudden they emerge. And imagine what the feeling would be, when you go to the NFR and all the work you put in.
Well, now he's at a point, we're not even sitting at number 4 in the world standings. If he has a couple of big, performances during Cowboy Christmas, we're not talking about this kid maybe making his first NFR. We'll be talking about him being in the world title race.
Oh, yeah.
In the steer wrestling.
100%. You get there in the top 3 in the standings. Well, I mean, now the money's so big. But
Wags has been 3 or 4.
Yeah, if you're top 3 or 4 to the last night, you're in the mix. I mean, you win $30,000 in the last round. So, yeah, I mean, he's obviously got momentum going. Things are rolling for him. Can he keep it going through Cowboy Christmas and the rest of the summer?
Yep, definitely deserving of our Pro Rodeo props. Let's jump into our short round segment. Tracy, this was a tough one that kind of caught us off guard. We're going to lead the short round off with Calgary X9 Xplosive Skies. Unfortunately, an injury while they were hauling the horse, and now Calgary's going to be retiring Xplosive Skies. And that's one of the best horses we have in Pro Rodeo.
I mean, it was the bareback horse of the year in 21, I believe, and then 23, it was the saddle bronc horse of the year. It's really hard to win those 2 honors in 2 different events. I mean, and he's 90+ every time Cowboys rode him. I mean, it wasn't if you drew that horse and you did what you were supposed to, you'd win the rodeo, pretty much.
Absolutely.
I mean, not only get a check, but you'd win the rodeo. It's shocking to us. I mean, you never like to see that happen. Hopefully, he can benefit the Calgary Stampede, in the future years. But it's just sad to see a horse like that go away in the prime of his career.
Well, and you got to look just last year, I guess, and now it would be 2 seasons ago, Logan Hay breaks the world record on Xplosive Skies, 95.5 points. And, this horse, as you said, last year at the NFR was named the bareback horse of the year the saddle bronc horse of the year at the NFR. Yeah. And this is just, it was just kind of abrupt because, we had always said, all right, X9 Xplosive Skies, they're on the day sheet. Guys got a chance to win the rodeo.
Right.
And the horse's last out ended up being Sage Newman. I think he finished 4th at Rodeo Houston with an
88. So it wasn't
and
a
that
bad
was
ride.
One of the lowest scores that you get. Yeah.
And it's just crazy. That horse was so great. I mean, it's unfortunate. Things happen. I mean, we've had great animals pass away, bulls or horses in the prime of their career. obviously the horse didn't pass away, so it, bigger and better things hopefully for the Calgary Stampede moving forward. But it is sad to see.
Yeah, and we've spoke to some of their stock representatives that say, why this is, going to be tough for Cowboys and going to be tough for Pro Rodeo fans because they loved watching Xplosive Skies. They still see it as a positive for their range
Right.
because, the horse hasn't passed away. The horse isn't crippled to where it can't, go out there and still be a great mare. So they're going to use Xplosive Skies in a wide variety. She's going to be a great mom,
Right.
and that Born to Buck program up there, we've seen the products that are already here in Pro Rodeo and the ones they have coming, and they got some special things cooking north of the border for sure, and she'll be a part of that.
Yeah, and you'll see the best of the best the Calgary Stampede has at the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah.
So you'll find out what's their best
the
stock
next, yeah,
because
superstar.
you'll know who that next one is probably at the Calgary Stampede this year.
Yeah, they have a couple outs to some of their younger horses there in Calgary, get a chance to see them. So it'll be fun to watch, but Xplosive Skies definitely going to be missed in Pro Rodeo. Another thing, Tracy, we talked about it off the top of the show, Cowboy Christmas. It's upon us, and Haven Meged is the first guy to get a real big lick north of the border at the Ponoka Stampede. He came out and did exactly what he needed to do, and that was last year what vaulted Ty Harris to have the type of year he did during Cowboy Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Harris won a huge chunk of change last
we're
year.
gonna talk about
yeah,
that
talk
later
about
on
that
the
in a moment. But I mean, Haven won over 17,000, and he also won the all around because he was team roping there.
Yeah, did a team roping.
Which I knew he did some team roping. I didn't know how serious he took it, and maybe he gets in the all around race because
everybody's trying to throw their hat in.
Well,
there.
they probably figure Stetson's probably not going to win the all around this year. He might get to the NFR and something, but probably not going to win the all around. So now all these guys are thinking, man, if I can win enough money and then go to the NFR and go nuts and win a ton of cash, I got a chance to win 2 world titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Haven won the Canadian Finals Championship or CPRA World Championship last year.
Yeah, him and Shelby rodeo a lot up there in
Yeah,
Canada.
and she's from Canada. So I mean, they know the way around the land there, and Ponoka is one of the stops. And if you looked at his travel itinerary to get there, it was pretty crazy. He left Greeley, Colorado to get to Ponoka to rope the next
I
morning.
wonder what type of drive that was.
I wouldn't probably it had to be 20-something, 25, 26 hours.
Yeah, that's
and
kinda
then
what I
I
was
mean, I'm
thinking.
sure his horses probably were waiting for him in Ponoka. I don't know.
Or he
And
mounted out on somebody.
he was using Smoke. It was his horse,
okay.
that young horse he's got. that-
Shelby had him up there.
Yeah,
Yes.
who knows? But I mean, just imagine that drive and then getting out of your car and then feeling jet lag, for lack of a better word, and then winning the rodeo. So a huge lick for him right away. I mean, and it's going to make for a huge Cowboy Christmas for him as well. And maybe he's in the mix to win it all this year for Cowboy Christmas.
Yeah, you got to drive 20 hours, then get off of your horse going 25 miles an hour, jump onto the ground. Make sure your legs are working, that's for sure. Tracy mentioned that off the top of the show, guys in a hunt for a world championship. Towards the back end here of the Chute Bosses, we're going to sit down and talk with with Kai Hamilton. He's nearing a return at that Calgary Stampede as well, Tracy, as far as we know up to this point.
Yeah, and we've been waiting. We spoke to him in June, and it seemed
Stetson.
Yeah, and him and Stetson, and it seems like that was the timetable Kai had. That he thought, okay, if I'm coming back, I'm going to come back for Calgary, which makes a ton of sense. If you feel healthy enough, you win that rodeo. I mean, last year, Jared Parsonage won $70,000 at the Calgary Stampede as a bull rider. I mean, and he could win a ton of money there if he's on. I mean, if he gets on a heater like he did last year at the NFR. It would be great to see him come back, and we keep saying this, at some point very soon, those guys got to start coming back to have a shot. I mean, yes, you can win ground money, but as I keep telling people, you can come back, but you can't come back and expect to win every rodeo. I mean, it's one thing to come back and start competing, but to say, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go 9 for 10 in rodeos, it's just the bulls are so unpredictable. It's hard to say that. If he can get a huge win in Calgary, everything will change for his season.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to watch. It'd be good to see Kai back on, after, I think, what we saw was a little bit of a
Fort
tease.
Worth, right? Yeah, Fort Worth.
He came back after winning the World Championship. He rode okay in Denver, but started to have that shoulder issue, and then it popped out in Denver, and then again in Fort Worth.
Right.
And he ultimately made the decision to go ahead and take a couple of months off. But now that you look at those guys, and they're you're starting to become $60,000 in the hole to try and catch up to some of these guys to make the NFR, and that's a big chunk of change. But if you win Calgary, everything changes.
Yeah, that's a complete game changer because if you win 50 to 60,000 up there, you're right where you
back
wanted
in
to
the
be,
hunt.
and you could have missed all the time you wanted, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But then again, that's assuming, like assuming you're going to win Calgary is a big if. A lot of guys have great careers and never win that rodeo. So hopefully he can. I mean, Kai's won Houston before. Kai's won huge rodeos. He's obviously won the NFR and he won the average as well. So can he do it? Yes. It's exciting for us to see because you wait in anticipation. It's kind of like, man, you don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully he rolls out there as the same Kai Hamilton that was at the NFR last year.
And I think he's towards the back end of Calgary, so probably looking in that July 10th time frame to see Kai possibly get on a bull. Maybe Stetson. Still don't really know what officially is going to happen there, but that's when you can kind of keep an eye on some of those world champions returning to the arena. We had into our 8-question segment. Another guy trying to make a national finals rodeo and also has a world champion brother. We're getting ready to sit down, Tracy, here with Ty Pope.
Yeah, Ty Pope won the NFR Open last year.
Yep.
And I mean, that's kind of
2 years ago. I can't even remember.
It all blends together, but I remember that's kind of when he emerged. Like, oh my gosh! I mean, Jess has a brother, and he's really good too. So
because Keenan won it last year.
Oh, that's I apologize. So it was 2 years ago, but he's been in the mix. We'll see if he can get to the NFR. And it's kind of like Statler, right? Like you have the talent, but people don't realize to be in the 15. You have to have a great season just to be in the 15. I mean, you have to win essentially like $100,000. And to win $100,000, you're going to win a lot of rodeos and do very well. So hopefully he can get over that hump. I know he's in the top 30.
Yeah, I think he's 31 right now.
There's so many rodeos out there. It's so with Sioux Falls and all these rodeos sitting out there in Calgary. And, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's so many rodeos and so much money on the table right now. I really wouldn't start counting dollars even until like mid-September. And then if he went to Sioux Falls, you could win $25,000. So it's even hard to count then. So hopefully he can get in. Ty's a good guy. I mean, he reminds you a lot like Jess. He looks a lot like Jess.
Yeah.
So very nice guy, very well spoken.
Yep, we'll see what he can do, especially if he's in Colorado Springs here for the NFR Open. So let's go to it for your 8-question segment.
Okay, first question. What's your favorite movie?
Top Gun.
And favorite restaurant?
Probably Texas Roadhouse.
What's your favorite bronc in the PRCA you've ridden?
Well, it was Famous Dex, but he passed away.
What would you name a bronc?
I don't know, Golden Alley.
What's your favorite hobby outside of rodeo?
Hunt.
Can you describe bareback riding in one word?
It's like a fist fight and a dance all at once.
And favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla.
Who would you want to be a tag team partner between Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Probably Bruce Lee.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Ty Pope, Tracy, one of those cowboys, you can tell he's hungry. He also has a great personality, but he wants to kind of get out of that Jess Pope shadow as his younger brother and make a name for himself, and he's close to doing it. If you stay in that top 30, you give yourself a chance later in the season. Yeah,
certainly. You're right there. And I mean, family and rodeo go hand in hand. I mean, the Wrights, the Coopers. I mean, all these guys have had. It seems like great world champions have had brothers, sons, somehow relations. So, I mean, you want to go step out of your own shadow, especially when your brother's a world champion. But it also helps you to have a world champion brother because it helps you maybe expedite your learning curve and learn how to travel. I mean, the biggest thing that these guys have problems with that you and I have learned throughout the years is, how do I travel? How do I get to the rodeos I need to be to have a chance at the NFR? Because you can't just say, I'm going to go to all these rodeos, and some of them don't make sense. You got to make sure you go to the right rodeos at the right time. And I'm sure Jess has helped him with that, and hopefully it continues on, and he has a chance to make the NFR this year.
No doubt about it. We appreciate Ty sitting down and chatting with us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Chute Bosses. Much more coming your way, though. We'll have the ProRodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight and our historic NFR moment of the week. We'll also highlight somebody getting ready to go into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. All of that coming up on the Chute Bosses.
In 1936, a group of cowboys and cowgirls came together for the common good of rodeo. They accomplished a feat that sparked a fire of greatness in countless Western athletes. Today, the Western lifestyle burns on in our contestants' and fans' hearts and souls. We aim to preserve the cowboy code and keep the Western lifestyle alive. Together as one, we are ProRodeo.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast. We mentioned off the top of the show, we're going to sit down and talk with 2023 PRCA World Champion bull rider Kai Hamilton as he's nearing his return, hopefully at the Calgary Stampede. And we had a chance to talk to him out in Vegas just about a month ago, so kind of give us an update on, what the last year's been like, what it was like to win a world title, and, really everything surrounding the Australian Cowboy.
Yeah, he was great.
He
was fantastic.
He was a good guy.
And I loved the environment because it allowed those guys to loosen up a little bit and not talk about like just winning a rodeo.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk to them, that's kind of the hand we're dealt. But it's cool to talk to those guys like off the record, just
Talk
in
to
a
us about your life
in
a
a
little bit,
casual environment, just so we get to know you better, and especially let our listeners and viewers know them better. I mean, ultimately, that's how you become a fan of someone, is you talk about things they do outside their life or other things. So, it was great to talk to Kai in that environment.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and we appreciate LVE putting that on, allowing us to come out there and chat with these guys. We hope you've all enjoyed it as well, getting to hear from some of these world champions, because we kind of have the NFR, but then the next season's already going, so we don't have a chance to really recap and talk to them about what it was like winning that world title. So hopefully you're enjoying this segment. Let's jump back into one of our segments here. It's the ProRodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight, and this time, Tracy, we're going to 1994 bareback riding inductee J.C. Trujillo. Began his rodeo career, get this, at age 6. And he just kind of took off from there. He was a junior rodeo champion, got into the PRCA in the 70s, or 67, excuse me, and then, went on to 12 NFRs. He won his world title in 1981, and the dude's just done a lot of good stuff in rodeo. And, one of his biggest accomplishments might be outside the arena on the ski slopes. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, he was at downhill.
He kind of started it, yeah.
Yeah, the great downhill at Steamboat Springs. It's always during the National Western Stock Show in Denver, because all the Cowboys come into town. And yeah, I mean, he's got a ranch. I was just reading some stuff up on him recently. A ranch about an hour outside of Steamboat. He's lived in Colorado. He calls it God's country. We live in Colorado. I mean, it's the mountains. It's the way of life. He grew up in the Western way of life. And I mean, he said in stories that have been written, rodeo gave him everything that he wanted out of life. And, now he's living that life. He also won the National Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City recently. So, I mean, he had a great career. I mean, and he he went to 12 NFRs, which is crazy.
As a bareback rider, that's impressive. How many did Casey get? Do you remember?
13.
Okay,
13.
so yeah.
I mean, the thing about that for bareback guys, not to get off the subject so much, but it's just the wear and tear on your neck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the spinal. I mean,
12 years of
just
whipping your head
literally
back
like
and
getting
forth.
in a car wreck or whiplash like every time for 8 seconds.
doubt.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But JC's been a great spokesman for rodeo. He's great for Colorado. He gets a lot of publicity in Colorado as rodeo legend. He grew up in Arizona. He went to Arizona State, but had a fantastic career, and it ended up in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Not a lot of guys can say that.
Yeah, you speak of Arizona State, 1968 intercollegiate champion there, the PRCA World Champions in 81, 12 trips to Vegas, and definitely a worthy of our ProRodeo Hall of Fame spotlight right here on the Chute Bosses. And speaking of Hall of Fame spotlight, Tracy, leads us right into our historic NFR moment of the week. This is a young man that kind of took rodeo by storm in the, I guess, late 2000s, 2007. Casey Field comes to the PRCA. Just 4 years later, wins his first world title. Let's go ahead and go back to the 2011 National Finals Rodeo. And, this was really Casey Field's coming out party in Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's no one better. I mean, no one better.
Just for the listeners at home, too, the first round, when I pulled the video, didn't have audio, so we'll have like a song going over the first round, but the second round, the third round, we'll have the commentary.
Yeah, so we'll just talk over all of it, Tracy, during this point. But let's go back to Casey. We mentioned 6-time PRCA world champion now, but all of this really began, I guess in 2011. He started it off with these 3 rides, an 89-point ride in round number 1. Andrew, can we get that turned down just a little bit there? But, I mean, look at Casey, just such a technician.
Yeah, the thing about him, if you watched, like if you wanted to show bareback riding 101, you'd show rides by Casey Field. I mean, he was always in great position. That's what astonished me. I mean, no matter the horse, whether it was a great horse or an average horse, he was rarely the guy that cost himself to not win rounds or place in rounds, especially at the NFR.
Yeah, and he started this 2011 NFR off on just an absolute heater. We saw his 89 there. Round number 2, we go an 87.5-point ride, and he just did everything the right way, and he was known that way the entire time, Tracy. 2011 to 14, won world titles. But then he had, you don't often see where a guy goes on a long hiatus and then comes back and wins a couple more world titles in 21 and 22.
Yeah, and the thing, well, it was actually
20 and 21. Yeah.
2020 in Arlington, he won his 5th, and then 21, and he almost won in 22.
Yeah.
He finished 2nd, but
behind Jess, yeah.
But the thing is that he there's him reacting there. I don't. That was before I got here. I don't think I've ever seen him in red. He's seemingly always in white or black, but he's just an outstanding guy. Great writer. I mean, it shows here. I mean, Stephen Dent and Will Lowe. I mean, some of the best to ever do it. And and he followed in the footsteps of his dad. I mean, who's in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Yeah, this was round 3. This is a 90.5-point ride on Mossbrucker Rodeo's Magic Wars. And, the horse kind of came out there and hopped out of the gate. You see Louis right there celebrating just a little bit. And, that kind of started things off for what Casey would say is a legendary career,
The thing is he just never gets out of position. It's almost like he's like in a cockpit that he's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing the right thing. Because a lot of guys,
you don't see him get rocked.
Yeah,
very
but you
often.
see their arms start moving or back, or they get thrown out of place. I mean, his fundamentals. I mean, granted, he was taught by his dad, and he was the first to say that. And he's going in our ProRodeo Hall of Fame July 13th. I mean, granted, he just retired, and if there was ever a guy that went in like that, it's him. I mean, 6 world titles. But the crazy thing about him, and I give him credit for, is after he won in 14, he had some different things going on, and he started getting hurt. Mm-hmm. And some guys think, well, maybe it's just not for me. I just don't want to do it anymore. And he got close to qualifying in 19 to the NFR, but he had some injuries happen. And you think, well, maybe he's just not going to go.
Yeah.
In 2020, he had a great season. And granted, it was abbreviated season because of COVID. And he won in the 10th round. He beat Tim O'Connell, and we've spoke to Tim about that, but on a re-ride. And then 21, he was even better. But he just trained himself so well before the NFR. Like what he put himself through mentally. He became like this crazy robotic champion at the NFR. I mean, it was almost like he was one guy during the regular season, then he showed up in Vegas and he was a completely different guy and a better rider. And I mean, that's what you have to do to win world championships. That's why I have so much respect for him, because it's one thing to get to the NFR and contend every year, but it's another thing to change everything you do every time to get to the NFR to be ready to win a world championship.
Yeah, and that soul patch has lived on, man. That thing, he had that soul patch from about 2011 to 2021. I'll have to ask Casey if that was his Staples soul patch that he had going on there. But definitely a historic NFR moment, and one that I'm sure Casey will never forget as well, leading to that first world title.
Yeah, and I'm sure you speak about him when he goes into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. I'm interested to see what that speech looks like, because Casey's well-spoken. I mean, and he's very thankful for what Rodeo's given him, and it'll be interesting to see what that speech is like.
For sure, no doubt about that. Let's go into our viewer question segment right here on the Chute Bosses. This one's going to come from Michaela on YouTube. Reason I said, Tracy, we didn't want to go too much into the Cowboy Christmas records. Well, Michaela wants to know who holds the record for the most money won during Cowboy Christmas, or, for people that listen to the Chute Bosses that aren't super familiar with the PRCA, that's during the 4th of July weekend. It can be a 4-day stretch. It can be a 7 or 8 day stretch like we have this year. Just kind of depends where the holiday falls. But go ahead and answer this question from Michaela.
Well, I mean, the winner of the most money is Ty Harris, $40,561 last year, and essentially most of those guys that win it go to about 7 to 9 rodeos.
Yeah.
And they count checks from all those rodeos, because it's really hard to go to more than that because of the travel, because there's more rodeos, obviously. What do we have, 40 rodeos this year?
I think we're at 38 this year.
Yeah, which is higher than it's ever been, the way the weeks broke. But you can only go logistically to so many rodeos. So you choose the ones you think you have the best shot to win money at. And it's just a crazy time where you can pack in all this money all at once. But to win the Cowboy Christmas like Ty did, you have to win a big rodeo, whether it's Ponoka, whether it's Calgary. It's got to be one of those rodeos. And we call it Cowboy Christmas. It's still Christmas, but when it was truly Christmas is when it was paying money like no other compared to any part of the regular season.
Yeah.
Now it's different because our purses have gotten so much higher and different era that we're in, where I mean, there's money to be won at the end of the season like never before, but that's why it was Christmas. It was like you're getting all these presents, the presents being money won.
Well, I mean, it's still impressive.
Yeah.
5 days, Ty Harris won $40,000. I'd take, $9,000 a day if somebody's...
a little over $8,000 a day. Yeah, that's crazy.
Somebody's willing to pay me. There's no doubt about that. So it's one of those things that, Trevor Brazil held that record for 12 years. I remember calling Ty after he figured out that he broke the record last year, and he's like, oh, I just broke it for timed event guys. And I was like, no, you broke it for everybody, and you did it just tie-down roping. So, it just shows how the money's going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't get close to breaking it again this year. Sage Newman in the rough stock last year won $36,000. He's now top 5 all-time Cowboy Christmas earners as well. So
I would venture to say it gets broke this year just because the money.
Oh, you're calling it, huh?
The money's there.
Timestamp it, Tracy. Just July 3rd.
And it's not because, I mean, Ty's record's incredible, but like Haven won, he's already 20,000 in, and he hasn't really done any Cowboy Christmas stuff, so to speak. I definitely think someone's going to win 41,000 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the bull riding's different, but you're counting ground money. But I don't know if it'd be a timed event guy. I think this year it'd be a rough stock guy that wins at 41,000. That's my prediction.
Yeah, we have quite a few guys on heaters, and if you're not wondering why aren't we talking about this? This is going to come out Friday. It's going to come out on the 5th. We're recording this on July 3rd, so people have an idea of, we've also, Pinoca's wrapped up, and then, obviously Greeley ends tonight, another big Cowboy Christmas opportunity for guys. So we haven't got to those rodeos yet, so we're kind of talking about what we've seen here so far. And that's going to lead us right into one of Tracy's favorite segments.
Yeah, I had another viewer question.
Go ahead, I know
from CB Nation, and the question was, yes, I was in a dance group in middle school.
Okay.
I was part of the ground control, a breakdance group. I had my own cardboard. I really couldn't breakdance, but I did learn how to do the sprinkler.
I was gonna say, no wonder why your head's.
Look at that. That's pure gold right there. Pure gold.
No wonder why your head's so flat, bud. You've been spinning on it for all these years. I knew there was something off with Tracy, but another guy that has something off with him, that's Buck, Tracy. And what's he been up to lately? You've talked to him? Talked to your brother?
I did talk to Buck. And this episode of Buck's question, someone went at him, tried to get vengeful on Buck.
Surprised it took this long.
Yeah, no, it is a surprise. But Buck had to use his athletic ability to get out of the way of it could have been a fatal accident.
Let's check it out.
Because of Buck's own. Buck brought this on himself, but he escaped near fatal injury.
Once again, here's Buck. He's got your Pro Rodeo word of the day.
I'm Buck, official correspondent of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of the PRCA. My word for the day is barrier. As in timed event guys break the barrier and get a 10-second penalty. When it comes to Buck, the only barrier I break is dating married women at the lounge. I'm not worried about getting caught by anybody. I'm Buck. What's going on around here? I'm after you! That wasn't my fault! That was your woman's fault! Don't blame her for dating Buck!
Farm life means always hoping for the best, but planning for uncertainty. You have to be ready for the next everything. The next dawn, the next season, the next harvest, the next technology, the next challenge, and the next generation. No matter what comes your way, we can help keep you ready for the next.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast, special edition interview here from Las Vegas for the 2023 PRCA World Champions Media Day. Tanner Barr, Tracy Rink, and our special guest, world champion bull rider Kai Hamilton. Kai, thanks for joining us, man. It's good to see you out here. Your first media day as a world champ. How's it been going so far?
It's pretty relaxing. It don't make me work too hard, so it's not all bad.
Let's speak of working hard just a little bit. Take us back to last year. That's like we've talked in the office on multiple occasions. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen ESPN's 30 for 30 documentaries that they do. It's basically, they pick a team or a time and moment and tell the entire story. It has a climax at the end. We think that's basically what should have happened last year for you at the NFR, because what a storybook ending, man. Take us back through it.
Yeah, it was definitely got both ends of the stick in that 2 weeks, but I mean, that's bull riding. 1 minute you're the champ, the next day you're the chump. So I mean, it's pretty humbling sport, but between all the ups and downs, I mean, I got accomplished what I wanted to there, and that was the main goal, and won a bunch of money and got a bunch of sore body parts, but it all worked out how it was supposed to, so it was good.
So when you got knocked out, and I know you in round 5, and you talked about this, was there one guy that told you, like, I know JB was in your corner, and obviously JB's legendary for crawling out and all the injuries he overcame in his career. Was there one thing that you thought, if I'm going to lose or if I'm going to not be able to do this, I'm going to go out on my own terms?
No, I think it was more the mindset that I've come this far, I ain't going to quit now. Like, you're this close to winning a world title. I had the mindset that there was nothing that was going to take me out of it, no matter what. And at the end of the day, it worked out the way it was supposed to. So, but being around guys like that with that kind of old school cowboy mentality that aren't going to back down, it sure helped. Yeah.
Well, Kai, we know we're the PRCA, but you go ahead and tell the truth. What was it like after you got knocked out and then having to come back and ride those next 2 days?
It was tough, especially being that morning performance. I mean, that was something that it was a freak deal, and had that not have been the case, it probably would have been a little easier. But the morning performance was damn for sure tough. The night performance wasn't too bad. As the last kind of rounds came along, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I was a little sore, but anyone that's rode bulls long enough knows that you got to ride with pain, and especially if you want to be a world champ, you're going to have to deal with that kind of stuff. So it wasn't nothing too serious.
Did you think you were going to ride when you went to the hospital that night? Did you think the next day you were
getting on? Yeah, it didn't matter what them doctors told me, I was getting on.
You sound like John Wayne, like, hey, no matter what happens, this is how we're gonna roll.
Yeah.
So what's the coolest part? You had a life-changing moment now that you're world champion. I mean, I know this is what you guys do for a living. You're one of the best in the world at it. Was there something that after this has happened, I know you've been injured and fought through some stuff this year, but it's, wow, I'm a world champion. Like, I didn't realize this is what happens to world champions.
No, I think the only thing I've noticed is confidence is a lot easier to come by. I mean, you work so hard to win a world title, and you got to tell yourself and think you're a badass and you can win, and when you got that buckle on your waist that says world champ, you don't think it anymore, you know it. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest difference I've noticed is the confidence.
So I know that's obviously, it doesn't mean you can win a world. You said you can be a world champion one day, a chump the next. But what's it going to feel like first time you get in the bucking chutes, when you get back from all this and they say, 2023 world champion Kai Hamilton back in the arena, after being laid off and having to go through what you've gone through, what's that going to feel like when you make that comeback?
That would be pretty cool. I mean, like I said, when everyone's announcing that you're a world champ, that helps that confidence. Like, you know then that you're here for a purpose and you're the best at it.
What was it like back in Australia? What was that reception like after you won a world title?
Well, considering I haven't been back yet, my phone was blowing up. I mean, there was a bunch of friends and family back home that have always supported me, and I guess by what I've seen, there is quite the fan base down there, and I mean, very thankful to have people back home rooting for me, and it was pretty cool to have Troy Dunn here, the first Australian to become a bull riding world champion. So it was pretty cool to have him here and get to see it too.
So you won the world, and I know you've talked about this a little bit. You're probably able to do some stuff in your lifestyle, right? Get some land or do some things like.
Yeah.
Did you get you a sports car?
No, you win that much money. I mean, you probably get to do some stuff for yourself.
For sure. I've been lucky enough to be able to buy a place in Stephenville, just outside of Stephenville, and I got some land and I got some practice bulls. Like, pretty much working on having everything I've always ever wanted, and I've always. Whether they were my bulls or other people's bulls, I've always loved being around bucking bulls and horses, and I got a handful of bucking bulls there at the house that I can practice on whenever I want, and got a horse I can ride whenever I want. So I've been super grateful in what rodeo has given me.
So we obviously all know about the injury at the NFR, but let's talk about this most recent setback. You know, the one that's forced you out of, I guess what are we at now?
January.
Like, 4 or 5 months of the season. How's the rehab coming from that? And how do you see the outlook for that?
Yeah, it's been a little tough. It was a freak deal how my shoulder came out both times. I mean, probably my best get-offs I've had, and it was just the right angle with the right amount of pressure, and it came out. And then the second time, had a bull rear up and fall on his side, and it hung me up for a split second. And just once it comes out one time, it usually gets easier and easier to come out. So it was just enough pressure to pull it out again. And at that point, I knew I had to get it fixed. Otherwise, it was just going to be hell all year long trying to deal with it. So Tandy's done a great job. He anchored it down. It's still can be stiff in spots and it's tight, but it feels strong. And honestly, if it was up to me, I'd be riding now. But Tandy wants me to wait the required time and make sure everything sets in there so it is healed right. And shoot, it's not the first time I've had to make the finals in 3 months, so I ain't too worried about it. I know my capability and just ready to go back rodeoing.
Yeah. It's got to be great. I mean, the talent you have, but the ground money counting in the world standings got to be huge, right? I mean, you guys can win big paychecks, but back in the day, not too long ago, the ground money never mattered. I mean, you got to keep it, but it didn't affect the world standings. That's got to be. I mean, you could win 30,000 at a rodeo or even a smaller X-Bowls if you were the only guy to ride.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big help. Either way, whether they had it or didn't have it, you still find a way to compete and win with the circumstances. But no, it sure helps. And the money in rodeo now, since 2021 when I made the finals in 3 months, compared to this year, the amount of money I can win this year is more. And so if I do my job, it should be just as easy to do it. So.
How many rodeos are we going to see you and Stetson hit up? You're going to be traveling to about every rodeo in the country there, Xpos for a while?
Well, yeah, we're going to be going, that's for sure. I'm sure his dad will have us end it up. Cody Wright will have us end it up, that's for sure.
Kai, this is obviously a huge accomplishment for you. You win a world championship. But, how can you see yourself growing as a bull rider? It's always about continuing to get better. Where do you see yourself where you can take that next step?
I think for me the biggest thing is getting on practice wheels, and I know as time goes on I won't be able to do that as much, but I think for now I know last year how much I improved just from practicing every chance I got, and every time I had a week off or I had 4 or 5 days off, and I know it was making me better, and I was continuing to get better doing it. So that's what I'll keep doing, and any day you take off is a day that you don't get any better. So I'll just keep working at it day by day. So
who do you enjoy or pay to watch or want to see? If it's another sport or another athlete, who is that person that, man, I just marvel. I mean, obviously you're a world champion. People, I'm sure, marvel at what you do. Who's that person that you like just watching perform?
There's quite a few guys. There's guys like Conor McGregor. I watch a lot of boxing, a lot of UFC. Conor McGregor, Gervonta Davis, them guys are unreal to watch. And I would really enjoy going to watch Gervonta fight or Conor McGregor fight. I think that would be cool.
We're going to get Kai Hamilton in the octagon?
No, definitely not.
What's it been like for you? I feel like this has been covered so many times, but having a chance to kind of have JB, be in your corner, what's that been like for you? Not only because he's one of the best bull riders of all time, but just a friend and a guy that, is a Cowboy to his core, man.
For sure. It's been a big help. I've been really lucky since I came over here to be put in the place to be around the right people. I mean, from my college coach to Cody Lambert, Stetson, JB, they've all said stuff that stuck with me and helped me along the way and give me advice and stuff. And I was just so lucky to be able to become friends with JB and just being around him, his mentality, and still being around him while he was riding, to have that competitive mindset and what he was doing for him to be able to win and stuff like that. It was a great help, and I think it kind of helped my mentality a lot.
He said you better not be bringing your bulls over to his place. He's getting a reputation of not having any buckers over there.
Any mean ones.
Yeah, what's your response to that?
Well, if I'm going to get on them and I'm going to buy them, I don't want to have to worry about getting hooked by them. So.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
Especially when I got JB bullfighting.
Yeah, how's he as a bullfighter?
I'll give it to him. He is pretty good. I mean, considering he's had a rough life and got a lot of injuries, he
gets around all right.
He gets around pretty good, but it's probably a good thing they're not super mean.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Tracy, you have anything else for Kai? Yeah.
When you got into buying bulls and doing stuff, how does that help you when you're riding bulls? Can you spot things in bulls that you think that you know, so to speak, what they might do with you?
I think when you're getting on something all the time that's moving underneath you, your body's so used to it, it just reacts. And I like riding horses a lot, but those practice bulls, I mean, they're anywhere from a 20-point bull to I got two there that are around a 21.5, 22-point bull. So I mean, they're kind of the better end. But when you're getting on them 20, 21 pointers all the time, I mean, you got to ride them. But you can also work on stuff and make yourself better at certain things that you need to work on. And I think the repetition of doing that, when you do get on a 22.5, 23-point bucker, you've worked on it so much, it's second nature and your body reacts. Your timing's down pat.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, man, we really look forward to seeing you back out there. I know that your hope is maybe towards the back end of July, maybe get cracking back out.
Yes, sir. Planning on Calgary, so.
Well, good deal. Hopefully the folks north of the border get a chance to watch Kai Hamilton. We appreciate you joining us here on the show, man.
Thank you.
There it is, Kai Hamilton. That'll wrap up another episode of the Chute Bosses. Another great episode is in the books. Kai, before we leave, where can everyone check you out on social media if they want to follow what you're doing this year?
Instagram and Facebook. So.
There you go, Kai John Hamilton. Another episode of the Chute Bosses is in the books. Until next time, keep on rodeo.
He's addicted to danger. Ruled by passion and pride. To pain and fear he's no stranger, but his lust needs to be satisfied. Hooked on an 8-second ride.